Hello, everyone. Happy end of the summer. My gosh, I can't believe how quickly the summer's gone. Hopefully, you are all doing very well. Today's live stream, we're going to be covering off basically our end of summer update. I know it's end of summer sounds so grim, but we literally got like a week and a half and the kids are back to school. So, at least here in Canada, where I'm from. So today we're going to go through kind of the trials and tribulations of Tin Robot Games, what we've been going through, the good, the bad, and the frustrating we're going to go through today. So hopefully you stick around for part of it. If you've backed any of our campaigns, this is a great time to get the updates and where we're at with each of those campaigns. I'm going to go through each of them. And I want to thank you for joining me today. So let's start off with the frustrating first. I have been known in this industry thus far of having an impeccable record on Kickstarters with delivering earlier on time. And that's kind of been my claim to fame up to this point. And I'm saying up to this point for a very specific reason. So last night we had our update with the manufacturing facility in China. We work with Sky Game, and yes, I am going to name shame them, Sky Game, who are doing Cities of Venus. This is the big box that we announced, I think it was in the spring we announced that we were doing the big box as a free add-on to everybody that backed the campaign. And everyone is super excited for Cities of Venus. We can't wait to get this in our hands. We canceled Essen. We originally signed up to go to Essen in Germany this fall, but the schedule was going to be too tight for us to get the stock there in time without having to fly a skid. So we ended up pulling out of that conference. Thankfully, we did, because what came up last night was that, and I mentioned this on a prior live, if you've seen any of the replay of the videos, but the one thing I really wanted to have with this game was linen finish on the outside of the box, specifically because you can see, if I go on angles like this, fingerprints within like a day of me receiving this box, the production sample we had. You can see the fingerprints all over it. And it was key that I really wanted to make sure it was linen finish. I must have had this conversation with the plant, like without exaggeration, at least 12 times, saying, linen finish, don't forget the linen finish, babysit this through. If I get a box that doesn't have linen finish, we are not going to accept it. So those are the conversations we've had up to this point. Lo and behold, the email I get last night is, hey, our box manufacturer forgot to put the linen finish on. So sorry. We realize, things are tight to deliver to the backers on time for this campaign. Tell you what, we're just going to give you a discount on your box production. So after I took a couple deep breaths, because again, I imagine any of you in any point in your life, if there's something that's very, very important to you and you follow up with the people that you need to execute on something and you follow up multiple times and the error still happens, it is insanely frustrating. And so I apologize if that comes through in this live video, but I am frustrated, and it's okay to acknowledge that. Where we landed is it was a very, very easy answer back to them, which was absolutely not. Now, this is now the 13th time I've mentioned that we are not accepting a box that doesn't have linen finish. Full stop. And some people might say, well, what's the big deal? It still looks super dope, which it does. It looks awesome. But because the intent is to have these in a series, and we're going to talk about some of the other games in a second, and they're going to be on the shelf beside each other, they got to look the same. So I don't want to have a box that I've just told you, the backers and the audience that, hey, I don't want to show fingerprints on the box. And then based on someone throwing cash my way in the form of a discount, me saying, well, maybe it's not that big of a deal. Let's go with the matte finish. So that's where we landed, as we said, absolutely not. You have to reprint these. So what does that mean? The timelines that they've given me is you need 10 days for assembly. So we have everything is ready to be assembled except for the box to actually put it into. That box is going to take 20 days to reprint. Because it's black ink, it has to sit even longer to dry. Then you have to do the linen finish, and then that needs to dry. These different steps you go through. It's not as simple as just making a simple telescoping box. Like, this is a very, very premium kind of gift box. You've got, like, as you can see, we've got the the metal planet kind of on the top. This is metal. There's a little ribbon that needs to be attached so you can lift up the inside flap and so forth. So I'm not going to reopen this whole box right now, but it's a very premium box, and it's more entailed than just a typical telescoping box. So 20 days delay, and then 10 days on top of that for assembly. So we're looking at, from basically today, we're looking at another 30 days. That puts our timelines into October when we start shipping. Technically, could you say we're still on time because our commitment was October is when our fulfillment would be? Yes, but I think most people were hoping that they would actually have the game in October. There will be a handful of people that will get this game in October, probably in the end of October, because we'll ship it out. And again, those who are on the shipping routes, faster on the shipping routes, will get it. The others, like in Canada, where it has to come here, and then I have to then redeploy to all the locations across Canada, several more weeks added on to that. So we're looking at, for most people, probably receiving their copy in November. Again, I wholeheartedly apologize for this. Again, I have a record that it irks me beyond all belief to even tarnish that record. But it is the reality. And I hope you're with me on this, that I know myself, if I had the opportunity to get a copy of a game where I know that it is going to be the best possible version of that game, and it's going to take a few more weeks because there is an error at the manufacturers, I wouldn't want the manufacturer to compromise and take a payout in order to give me something lower quality than we had been agreeing on all this way. And although this isn't incremental to the actual Kickstarter campaign, if something we added on afterwards, is still something we've been talking about. And I want people to open this game and just feel happy and joyous when they open up and be like, man, did these guys ever put a lot of effort into the quality of this game? So that's what I want, and I hope you're with me on that. So that's the update on Cities of Venus. Again, I'm sorry. I apologize. We're looking at November for most people to get the game. All right, so that's Cities of Venus. Lost, and we're calling it Lost Contact because there's other Cities of Venus games that are going to be coming that I'll talk about in a second. Time Splicers. So this is an add-on that we added on. I think it was like, again, I think it was in the spring, or it was in like February, that we reached out to the backers and said, hey, we have an opportunity to add this game on too. Do you want to add it on? We had about 100 people added on to their pledge. We had some people just say that weren't even pledged, that just ordered the game. This game is done. So this has been picked up by our distributor that's located in China. The stock is there. I have a few cases on their way here to Canada. For those who didn't get a pledge of the Cities of Venus game and they just bought this on its own, we're going to start doing this distribution imminently. And for those that have it as part of their pledge, it'll just be bundled with their pledge, and it'll ship with their pledge, and you'll get it in November. But it turned out really great. I know I had posted a video on our channel that showed the kind of this copy here opened, and it was a video was sent to me from the manufacturing plant. Again, kudos to these guys. What's Manufacturing, WHATZ, did a bang up job. Looks awesome. So I give credit where credit is due. Very happy with how it turned out. And this is an example of how, when as part of a series, you'll see that like we have the Cities of Venus, which has down here it says Chronicle 1. Each major game will be Chronicle 1, Chronicle 2, Chronicle 3. We're about to going into our Kickstarter for Chronicle 2 this fall. And then in between those Chronicles, there's like little mini, like smaller games that are either companions or add-ons. Everything is standalone, of course, so you can play any of these games as standalone. This one here, Time Splicers, is the event that happens on Earth that causes us to lose contact on Venus. And you'll see with this, we have Chronicle Alpha. So if you go to citiesofvenus.com, you'll actually see the plan of here's the timelines of the different games coming. You see Chronicle 1, 2, 3. You'll also see Chronicle A. Chronicle Beta is coming soon too, which I'll talk about that soon. But Time Splicers turned out quite well. So let's take a quick little boo. On the inside, I love doing inside printing, as people know. You're humanity's last hope. We have the booklet, which turned out really well. Added more pages. And my two colleagues, Andrew Gilpin from Gilpin Games, Sarah Pippi, I call them the Rules Ninjas. They're awesome. They help me really polish these books. But lots of pictures and diagrams of how to play this game. It's a game that the cards become kind of the play area on the table. It's very dynamic. things are constantly moving around and you're jumping back and forth through time. Timelines are splitting. You're trying to collapse timelines and you're trying to find the elusive time crystals. This is what the inside of the box looks like. On the side, you'll see we've got the time crystals on the side of the box. So you have that reveal when you open the box. I love that too, when you open up a box and you have that kind of cool reveal. Inside, you have wooden time jump bolts that play part of the game. We have time crystals, time freeze markers, which are again acrylic cubes. And people love these giant acrylic meeples. I love them too, so that's why I went with these. So those are the main components, and then you've got the cards. And in the box, I'll remove that. We have kind of this inside the box kind of timeline design, which I thought would just make it look kind of cool. On one side, the cards sit, and on the other side is where you put your pieces, your other components. So that's Time Splicers. You can still get this game if you aren't part of the campaign. If you literally go to tinrobotgames.com, tinrobotgames.com. There's a link there to pre-order this. We are going to be shipping this imminently. And if you're not in Canada, if you're like in Europe, that will send straight from China. So if you place an order, it'll ship out this week. So you'll get a copy. So that is Time Splicers. Very, very happy with how this turned out. These guys did a great job. Again, linen finish, matte finish. There's a bit of a mark on here because I literally just dropped my scissors on this box before we started the live. But we've got spot UV on the front as well. Just turned out really awesome. Really, really happy with this. So that's Time Splicers. People will be able to play this very soon, within a month. Next, we have the Guarding Geckos Kickstarter. I haven't sent out an update yet. I'm going to send one out probably tonight. There's nothing new to say. It is in production. The production should be finished within a couple weeks. I think they said by the end of the first week of September. 2 boxes. We got the abstract box. We have the kind of the cartoon box where we've made some changes to it, but this kind of cartoon style box. We have both boxes available. Again, if you haven't backed this campaign, if you go to the Kickstarter page, you can still late pledge, and there's a pre-order option there, and you can still choose either box. This box is in limited quantity. We only had so many, I think 50 extra made beyond the campaign fulfillment. So those first 50, well, they're gone. Then it'll be the abstract box. The game is exactly the same on the inside. It's just the outside box and the rule book that change. But it's under production. It's on its way. The trays have been made. I'll have an update soon when it's ready to go to the distributor. Again, with all intention of this is going to arrive in people's hands before Christmas. So you have this for the holidays. I'll talk about bunny drops next, then I'll get into frustration number 2. Okay, so bunny drops. This is a production sample. It turned out awesome as well. This is Hopes Manufacturing did this. These guys did an amazing job. Oh man, I love working with the Hopes. If there's been any learning in this process, and I'm going to talk about this in a second about our most recent campaign we're working on, but I've got 14 different manufacturers I now have quote on every game. And what I'm finding is some manufacturers are better at some things than others. So Time Splicers, which had smaller deck of cards, but a bunch of kind of acrylic components, what's for the quality was the best price. Bunny Drops is just cards, right? And because Hopes is a printer, they are able to have the best cost on, and they're a very well-known manufacturer, and they've been used by Inside Up Games and a bunch of different people. So great reputation. But because they are a printer, and there's just cards in this game, they could do it a lot cheaper than some of the other manufacturers who would outsource printing, but then do some of the other things internally. So we used Hopes for these guys. It turned out fantastic. We love it. Bunny Drops, Flipperoo, and Bunny Poo, the card game. For those that don't know about Bunny Drops, it's a la kind of style of that reversible card like you see in some games like Point Salad, where you have the reversible cards. You're grabbing columns and rows of rabbits and food. Mixed amongst there's bunny drops. You're trying to, it's okay if you collect them if you have a broom and dustpan because it's positive points, but if you don't have a broom and dustpan, it's negative points. Very quick game, great filler game. It's a lot of fun. Gets a bit mathy at the end, so definitely it's, you gotta be paying attention. It seems very casual when you first start playing it, and then when you get it halfway in, you're like, oh, wait a second, this is not a casual game. I actually have to think, but it's a lot of fun. What I like is the reveal. So again, we did the reveal on this one as well, on the sides, which I super love. Inside lid printing, so you got the little bunnies looking down at you from in their little bunny pen. Inside the box, again, we added more pages. Kudos to the two rules ninjas. I'll say their names again. Andrew Gilpin, Sarah Pippi. They're just awesome, and they helped me really get this book into a good spot where it's very clear how to play this game. At least I think so. In the box, there's going to be 2 decks of cards. So right now you can see they're kind of loosely in here because they didn't have the tray done yet. Went back and forth on the tray. We originally were going to have a paper tray, but the weight of the cards absolutely annihilated that tray by the time it arrived at the destination. So when I got my box, opened it up, and I mean, they might as well have just put a napkin in there. There was like that tray was destroyed. Actually, this was it here. And so what we decided to do is on the fly, we made a change. And we said, you know what? Because we like the artwork on the inside of this box, so again, we look inside the box, you can see then the grass that the rabbits are playing on and the other side of the pen. We're going to put a clear tray in here. So the clear tray will have 2 pockets. On one side will be the 5 and 6 player cards, which you keep separately, and you only have those when you play 5, 6 players. And then the rest of the cards, which is for the 2 to 4 players. So that is Bunny Drops. Bunny Drops turned out very well. Linen finish on that box. And it turned out awesome. I'm super happy. And welcome to everybody that's joining live here. Wow. I appreciate you joining in. Any questions, feel free to ping me. As you know, I don't hold back. And full transparency, I'll talk about anything. All right. And so let's talk about Garden Gecko. So now the frustration. Well, actually, no, the pin. So the pin first. Magnetic pin. This was an add-on to the campaign for people who backed on day 1. And then if you didn't back on day 1, which is the first 72 hours, if you came in late in the campaign, you could still buy it if you wanted. But it's this little kind of metallic gecko. We call it a pin. It can sit flat on display, or this bottom comes off and actually acts as like a magnetic pin. So you can attach it magnetically to your clothes or to whatever you want to attach it to. This was actually quite popular. I'm surprised how many of these we had made. It did way more than I thought it would. These are already done. These are already with the manufacturer, with our distributor, sitting there. They've got part numbers and everything ready to be picked and added to people's orders once we start fulfilling Garden Geckos. And that leads me to this guy. All right, so plushies. I hadn't done a plushie before, and so one of the things I was really excited about in this campaign was I wanted to do a plushie. I hadn't done one yet, and I wanted to go through that experience. People who've been following me over the past number of years know that my style is I like to try different things to see what works and get experience, right? And kind of keep building up that knowledge base. This is one of the most plushies. It is both easier than I thought and more difficult. More easier than I thought that they can literally take a picture and a drawing and create a plushie from it. More difficult that is when you want to make changes, there's this inherent resistance to really want to do changes, right? More than incremental things. So for instance, this original guy that we received, we said, hey, looks great, but we had to use Photoshop for our Kickstarter page to make his eyes bigger, to be kind of more what we were aiming for. So his eyes, we wanted to be like almost 50% bigger. Want his mouth to come out a little bit more. Not huge changes, but just a little bit more. So, of course, the manufacturer said, yeah, we can do that when we go into production, no problem. Here we are, we go into production. They sent me some images of the production proof, and it looks literally virtually identical to this. So we go back and we say, okay, but like again, reference the pictures we sent you, like the eyes should be bigger, and no problem about the confusion. But we need these changes before we can go into production. So what they did is they literally just took the gray fabric here off and made it white. So just like the white part of the eyes were bigger, but they didn't structurally make the eyes bigger. And then the inside of the eyes were rotated in a funky way where their eyes are going different directions, and it was just odd. So we had another one of these kind of I wouldn't say heated, but I'd say definitely assertive conversations, where I just said, "Look, I'm not going to budge. Like, you have to deliver what we asked for." So, and often I find when you get into these conversations with some of these manufacturers, and I've run into this after the past several years and different manufacturers I've worked with, is once they've created like a proof and prototype, there's immense resistance to want to really make a change, right? And you'll get feedback like, well, we've made so many changes already, and it's going to start costing us, we're going to have to start charging if we're making any more changes. And you have to keep going back saying, please refer back to the images and directions we sent you on XYZ date. You have still not delivered that. Any changes you've been making that you still have to, it is on you. It is completely on you. You need to fit that spec, period. So we had that conversation, and they assured me, fingers crossed, that they're making those changes, and I can't wait to see it. I absolutely love this guy the way he is. I just want his eyes to be bigger as per the spec we sent. Right. And so we'll get there. Once those are ready, I'm anticipating that those plushies will be ready probably second, third week of September. So by the end of September, we should be shipping the entire Garden Geckos Kickstarter campaign. I'll remind you that is, I think, 7 months early. Right. We had committed to May of next year. But really, I wanted to push and have this out for Christmas, holiday season, and in case somebody wanted to give it as a gift. So you're going to get this one way earlier. So hopefully it offsets, again, the few weeks delay we're going to have on Cities of Venus. So that's the update on the game. So wow, this is the first time I've been in a situation where I've literally had 4 titles coming out at the exact same time. Usually from a publisher standpoint, most publishers have, games that are in ideation stage, whether they're taking submissions from people or their games are working on themselves. They usually have a game that is in kind of like pre-launch, pre-build, which is what Cities of Venus Survivors is, and I'll talk about that in a second, is in. They typically have a game on Kickstarter. They have a game that's then in funding, and then, that's in fulfillment, and then they usually have potentially then maybe even a leg of hitting retailers and so forth. So the games are usually all at different stages so that there's constantly something coming out at any given quarter, right? The way this lined up, we end up having just literally 4 games all at the same time. So it has been a little busy. I'm not going to say overwhelming because it's awesome. I love it. I absolutely love this. It's the dream, right? People that are in the industry that want to have their own game out there. This is something I've been working on now for 5 years, and at the end of this year, we'll have 11 or 13 titles in the marketplace. 11 titles by December. There'll be 11 titles I'll have in the market. That's crazy. So I get giddy when I think of that, but it's a crap ton of work. So I wouldn't necessarily advise people to have 4 come out at the same time, but it's going to happen. So let's now talk about the next game. For those who are on TikTok, who are on Instagram, if you go to our link tree, or quite frankly, if you go to citiesofvenus.com, either of those will take you to our next campaign. So our next campaign in the Cities of Venus storyline is called Cities of Venus Survivors. It is a standalone game. You don't have to play any of the other games. You can play this and not play any other games if you wanted. It is its own self-contained game. It just fits within the narrative and the story of Cities of Venus, was what we're kind of building out over the story spans several hundred years on Venus, and it's just one kind of story in that saga. And this one is a polyomino dice manipulation game. So it's a dice chucker. You're chucking dice. Those allow you to operate your mech. So you have your mech dashboard, and you're using your dice to kind of operate your mech and do mining and move across and explore the terrain. The polyominoes is the exploration that you're moving on the terrain. And the goal of this game is to be the first person to find or to create or build 5 fuel rods. And once you have that, you trigger the end of the game kind of final launch sequence. And that's when everyone takes everything they've built up to that point and they, I don't, for lack of a better word, a roll off. I don't really want to say a roll off, but they do a roll and they see who is the person that's going to pilot that final ascent vehicle to the surface, and they're the winner of the game. Plays in about an hour, ton of fun, tons of replayability. Absolutely love it. Joe Masson out of Quebec here in Canada is the artist on this. He did an amazing job. The artwork is fantastic. So do me a favor. If you're not following this yet, if you can go to our citiesofvenus.com webpage, a splash page, there's a link there. You can be notified when the campaign goes live. Click on that. Also, if you go to Kickstarter and search Cities of Venus Survivors, you can find it on Kickstarter. We have a page there as well where you can follow the campaign. This is going to launch hopefully in November is my goal. We're not going to launch till we're ready. The game itself, right now, I've put a quote out to everyone to have this game basically make what we call reviewer copies. So most reviewers don't like to kind of look at prototypes, right? So they really want to see a game that's finished if they're going to review it. So for all games, and I started doing this a few years ago now, and about 4 campaigns ago, it was just as cheap to go and produce a small 100-unit run than it was to go and pay for one content creator who has a large audience. So I started doing that. So I started saying, okay, I'm going to create 100 copies, and then any reviewer that wants to review this, whether they have a small audience or large audience, they can take a copy. I'm not going to pay for the review. I get what I get. If they don't like it, great. Then the content is that they don't like it. If they like it, then the content is they love it. But it gives me enough content to get the word out there on the game and then have videos I can show in my page. So right now, I'm aiming for this to be November when we launch this campaign. However, if we're not ready with the tools we need and we have to push that, if I have to push it much past the second week of November, what I'll end up doing is I'll actually just push the entire campaign to February. That will be the plan. So fingers crossed. Hopefully you're rooting for me to get this stuff ready, but check it out. It is awesome. I absolutely love it. I'm so excited about the story. Likewise, if you guys have any questions at all about any of the games, we're very responsive. Often people are like, oh my gosh, I didn't expect you to respond so quickly, like literally minutes after they've emailed me. If I'm in front of my computer, I will answer immediately. And, I wouldn't be doing any of this without you, the people that are invested in Tin Robot Games and have purchased our games and support us on our campaigns. None of this company would have, there'd be nothing here if it wasn't for that. So I want to thank you all for that. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your understanding when things aren't going perfectly. I still think they're going pretty good. But, a bit of a perfectionist, so I love things to go perfect. And, that's something to strive for. But I once had a mentor say to me, strive for excellence, not perfection. Perfection's unachievable, but excellence most people can achieve. So hopefully people see Tin Robot Games and they see excellence there. So once again, thank you so much, everyone. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your summer. And good luck in all the back to schools this fall. Take care. Cheers.